Hi, do you remember that friend of yours who smokes a lot and then complains about how they need to quit smoking? Or that friend who, after graduating, kept going on and on about how he needs to pay off his credit card debt, but just bought a new car? It's called double thinking, a concept that first originated in George Orwell's 1984. The first time I stumbled upon this term was when I was watching this video, which quotes a sort of cognitive dissonance in which people both have their own perceptions and the understanding of what is true, and yet they choose to accept what they are being told by the party as true, despite any contradictions between the statements. The book 1984 was first published in 1949, just a year before Orwell died of tuberculosis. Orwell has affected the thought process of every single hallway door that knocks on intellect, while he himself wasn't particularly fond of them. Now, it's easier to confuse between double thinking and cognitive dissonance. Just a word of caution. Double thinking was a fictional exaggeration in 1984, the book, while cognitive dissonance is the real world discomfort. Coming back to the idea itself now, we do find ourselves in such situations and crossroads of believing something and then doing completely opposite of it. But why do we do that? Well, how I see it and how I have experienced it firsthand, I came to concluding that it's just easier. Well, it resolves the discomfort of cognitive dissonance. To give you my very own dilemma, it's my career and my occupation. As a student, I work part time to support my needs, but the very subject of my study is something that is usually considered upper class or the one that only a few can afford. That being true, I do work hard on my part time, so I am able to afford my lifestyle, particularly because my career is still not strong enough to support itself. This contradicts my very core belief. Do not live a life that you do not like. I do not like my job or anything that relates it to me in any way, shape, or form, while I still need it. You will find me having this conversation with my friends every few months how I really want to resign and quit my job. But this does not come from a point where I do not want to work. It comes from the part that the satisfaction I get by being on a film set gives me much higher dopamine than waking up every Sunday morning knowing that I have to go to work. The discomfort of working on a Sunday is easier than the confrontation of looking for a job in my own field. That is rather an unconventional path. And similarly, the discomfort of knowing smoking kills is easier than the hell of getting out of the addiction. If you were to look it up, other reasonings for this can be trauma or social pressure. And in a very social and political context, people can double think due to the peer pressure or the desire to fit in or to be recognized by the society. For an example, the idea, I would be much happier if I were prettier, or I will be happier when I get this appraisal. When you and I, we both know that, well, while looks and money can make life easier, it definitely cannot make you happier. While these are solid reasonings, I want to add the fear of conflict. This again roots from it's easier. An individual can lean towards holding contradictory beliefs and actions in order to avoid. Hello, this is me from the future. Well, a few hours later, when I realized that my mic basically died in the middle of shooting. But picking up from this subject again, fear of conflict. Now, it again roots from it's easier. An individual can lean towards holding contradictory beliefs and actions in order to avoid this confrontation and the conflict, then align their actions to their core beliefs. Now, look around yourself. What is your conflicting action? Double thinking isn't necessarily bad or wrong, and the examples that I gave are rather extremes and debatable. And that itself makes the idea of double thinking rather subjective. And I still believe it's important for one to know and be aware of where they stand in their own politics. With all that being said, this fictional term by Orwell doesn't seem as quite dystopian as it did in the start of the video, but rather those little bargains we make with ourselves on an everyday basis. Now, do share in comments what are those examples that you noticed in your life or life happen in a way. Until then, it started raining again.